I'll never forget that day. It was the worst day of my life, which somehow turned into the most unbelievable day of my life. It all started with a pink slip. I was a nurse at a small rural clinic, and due to budget cuts, I was let go. Just like that. After pouring my heart and soul into that place for 5 years, I was handed a box for my things and shown the door. Devastated doesn't even begin to cover it. My car was in the shop, so I had a long, humiliating walk home ahead of me. I was trudging along a dusty back road, replaying the firing in my head, tears blurring my vision. My career was over. How would I pay my bills? What would I do now? The sun was beating down, and I felt utterly alone. I was miles from home, surrounded by nothing but open fields. Suddenly, I heard a sound, a rhythmic thumping, getting louder and louder. I looked up and saw not one, but two massive military-style helicopters descending from the sky. They weren't just flying over, they were landing, right in the middle of the field next to the road. My heart hammered against my ribs. What on earth was happening? Was this some kind of training exercise? The noise was deafening as they touched down, kicking up a storm of dust and grass. The side doors slid open, and soldiers in full gear jumped out, looking tense and focused. One of them, clearly the leader, spotted me on the road. He raised a megaphone to his lips, and his voice boomed across the field, amplified and urgent. "Where's the nurse?" he yelled. I froze, my mind racing. A nurse? Me? How could they possibly know? I pointed a shaky finger at myself, my mouth too dry to speak. The soldier's eyes locked onto mine. He gestured frantically, yelling into the megaphone again. "We need you, now. It's a national emergency." National emergency? My brain couldn't process it. Just an hour ago, I was deemed non-essential, a budget cut. Now, the military was landing helicopters for me. Before I could even think, two soldiers were running towards me. They didn't ask questions. They just grabbed my arms gently but firmly, and half carried, half ran me towards the nearest helicopter. "Ma'am, we have a situation at the Capitol. We need your specific skills," one of them explained as we ducked under the spinning blades. My specific skills? I was just a regular nurse from a small town clinic. What could I possibly do? I was bundled into a seat, a headset was placed over my ears, and the world outside became a blur as we lifted off the ground. My sad little box of belongings left forgotten on the side of the road. Inside, the atmosphere was electric with tension. The lead soldier, whose name I learned was Commander Evans, briefed me. A highly contagious and mysterious pathogen had broken out during a major international summit at the Capitol. The country's top medical experts were stumped. They had traced the origin to a rare tropical plant, and my name had popped up in a national database. Years ago, during my nursing studies, I had written a specialized research paper on emergency treatments for toxins from that exact plant family. It was an obscure paper I thought no one had ever read. Apparently, someone had. My little side project, my academic curiosity, was now the only hope. I was terrified. This was beyond anything I had ever been trained for. I wasn't a world-renowned expert. I was just me. But looking at the grim faces of the soldiers, I knew I had to try. Commander Evans handed me a tablet with all the data they had. Patient vitals, lab results, genetic sequencing of the pathogen. My mind, which had been foggy with despair just minutes before, snapped into focus. The adrenaline was a powerful thing. I started cross-referencing my old research, my fingers flying across the screen. The noise of the rotors faded into the background as I became completely absorbed. Patterns started to emerge. I remembered a specific alkaloid combination I had theorized about in my paper, a long shot, a purely hypothetical antidote. I scribbled down a formula, a complex sequence of compounds that would need to be synthesized immediately. "This," I said, my voice shaking slightly, "this might work. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot we have." Commander Evans took the tablet, his expression unreadable. He transmitted the information to the medical team on the ground. The rest of the flight was silent, the weight of what was at stake pressing down on all of us. When we landed at the Capitol, it was like stepping into a movie. The area was cordoned off, hazmat suits were everywhere, and the tension was a physical presence in the air. I was rushed to a secure medical facility. The lead scientist, a world-famous virologist, looked at me with a mix of desperation and skepticism. "You're the nurse from the database?" he asked. I nodded, feeling incredibly small. But then he showed me the lab results. My antidote, the one I had scribbled down in a helicopter, was being synthesized. They had started working on it the second my transmission came through. The next few hours were the most intense of my life. I worked alongside these brilliant minds, refining the dosage, monitoring the initial trials on isolated samples. I wasn't just a nurse anymore. I was a collaborator, a key part of the team. My small town clinic skills, my attention to patient detail, my practical knowledge, it all came into play. I noticed subtle things in the patient data that the peer researchers had overlooked. And slowly, miraculously, we started to see a positive response. The pathogen's replication was slowing down. The antidote was working. By sunrise the next day, the crisis was officially declared contained. The patients were stabilizing. I was standing in the middle of a state-of-the-art command center, surrounded by people who were clapping me on the back, calling me a hero. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and completely bewildered. The president himself called to thank me personally. It was surreal. The very same day I was fired for being redundant, I had helped save the capital from a potential pandemic. Life is funny, isn't it? Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, it throws a couple of helicopters at you. Later that week, I got a call from my old clinic director. He was stammering, apologizing profusely, offering me my job back with a huge raise and a promotion. I politely declined. I had a few other offers to consider, one of which was to lead a new rapid response medical research division for the government. It turns out that obscure paper I wrote in college wasn't so obscure after all. I went from being fired and walking home to having a career I couldn't even have dreamed of. It just goes to show, you never know what skills you have that might one day be exactly what the world needs. So never, ever give up on yourself. Thanks for listening to my story. Be sure to subscribe for more.